Welcome back to Nite Line. I'm your guest host, Dorothy Spalding, and we're going to have a great time tonight. You've already seen, if you've been watching earlier, the wonderful guests we have. Well, we have some wonderful guests in this segment as well. And right now, one of them will be, of course, Earl Cox, who has been with us many times here and who we love so much. And Ilan Greenfield is a publisher right from Israel, came right from Israel to come here. And he's published this book. I'm not going to tell you what this book is. I'm going to tell you it's a very, very special book. This book has to do with you and me in a very special way. So I don't want you to go away. I want you to stay right with us because we're going to be showing you this book. We're going to also be talking about the Holocaust. Ilan's mother was a Holocaust survivor. There are not a lot of those left. And so we're going to be talking about a book she wrote and what she had to go through as a very young child. So you're going to want to watch this. And then we have some travel information coming up a little later with Renee and with Renee, and we'll be talking to you about her. So it's going to be a good hour. Don't miss it. We're going to go to B.J. Harris right now, and this is what I'm telling you to do. Come to Jerusalem.
In a mountain, in a wilderness, there stood a man. God told him that someday he would possess this land. There would be a city called Jerusalem, where my peace will come pass over all your sin. Children of Abraham, come to Jerusalem. To a mountain in a wilderness he brought his son, the promised child to offer to the Holy One. Through his tears he trembled as he raised the knife. A voice said, wait, I have a better sacrifice. I'll trade my life for you to prove my love is true. Children of Abraham, come to Jerusalem. Come to Jerusalem. Come to the Prince of Peace. Come to the great I am. And let your searching cease. And when your heart has made room for my throne within, then everywhere you go, you'll bring Jerusalem. On a mountain in a wilderness I made my home, a temple on the earth where I placed heaven's throne. And every year you brought a lamb to sacrifice, the Passover that covered your sin from my eyes. Children of Abraham, come to Jerusalem. To a mountain in a wilderness the prophet came, the mighty God, the Prince of Peace, they called his name. On a mountain in a wilderness he died alone, and soon it was destroyed, that temple made of stone. The final sacrifice, Messiah gave his life. Children of Abraham, come to Jerusalem. Come to Jerusalem. Come to the Prince of Peace. Come to the great I am. And let your searching cease. And when your heart has made room for my throne within, then everywhere you go, you'll bring Jerusalem. Come to Jerusalem. Come to the Prince of Peace. Come to the great I am. And let your searching cease. And when your heart has made room for my throne within, then everywhere you go, you'll bring Jerusalem. Come to the bread of life, the wine of sacrifice, children of Abraham. Come to Jerusalem.
I hope by the time this program's over, you're going to say, I want to go to Jerusalem with you. I cannot wait to go. We have gone so many times, and it's just wonderful. When you hit that land, oh my goodness, you think I should always be here. It's the best thing that ever happened. And there's things that you want to go see. Like one of my favorite places, one of Earl's favorite places is the Shuk.
Absolutely.
We love to go to the Shuk.
The fruit is grown in rock, not in sand and soil. It's grown in rock, and
It's just big.
And it's so juicy and so good. And you know where the fertilizer comes from, right?
Yep.
Right from there.
Right from
and I'm telling
heaven.
you, it never ceases to amaze me all the great crops that they raise there. Grapes, all the grapes are delicious. And when I go to the Shuk, I absolutely overdo it. You know that. And I always walk away with a few extra pounds when I leave for Israel.
Well, we like to go to all their baked goods. Their baked goods are like the best in the world.
Oh, I'm telling you, Dorothy, you don't even want to talk about that around me because I can't pass. And everywhere you go, you find goods that are baked, and it's so good. And cappuccino that goes with it. Oh, Dorothy, I'm starting to salivate right now. I want to go there. I want to just be there.
I love the meat they put. What is that?
You're talking about, you have swama.
Swama.
And then you have falafel. I like both of them.
Yeah, I do too.
So, no, I dream about those things like Americans dream like hot dogs. I dream about swama.
Swama?
Yeah,
I do too. You got me going on it.
But
It's
more importantly,
wonderful.
Dorothy, and I think you will agree with me on this, what I like best about Israel are the people.
The people.
You know why I like the people? Tell me, Dorothy.
Well, they're God's people, number
Absolutely.
one. And you just fall in love with them. I have got so many friends in Israel. I have Leah who just came over, and she just came to see me because she said, I'm homesick for you, and she calls me her sister. You'll make relationships with people over there that's just absolutely awesome.
And you know the difference between that friendship and a friendship you'll make with your next door neighbor here?
Yeah, it's
These
lasting.
people will stick with you.
Yeah, they do.
won't leave you.
No.
I'm telling you, they invite you to come to their homes to have Shabbat dinners, and when you go to that home, it's not like an American family. I remember when I was a young man, my family used to get together, and we'd have a good Sunday dinner.
Dinners.
Now, you can't find kids, you can't find parents, everybody's either shopping or playing golf. But if you go to Israel on Shabbat, Saturday, and you see the family, you got the grandmother, grandfather, I'm telling you, the whole family is there. It just makes me feel so good, but it makes me feel so bad that we've lost that in America.
I like Shabbat night when the streets on Shabbat, on Friday, the streets are loaded with flowers. And the men take flowers to their wives for Shabbat dinner.
Everywhere, and they grow them there.
Yes, they're beautiful.
They don't ship them, man. They
Gorgeous.
ship them to America and various other places. Dorothy, I don't think there is a person in your audience right now that has not been to Israel can even visualize what it's like.
Oh, no.
It is absolutely a treat beyond anything that your mind can conjure up. The first time I laid my foot down in the soil of Israel 18 years ago when I got off that plane, I said, I don't think it's going to be like this. But I'm telling you, my life changed
forever.
And I'm not a theologian.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. But my life changed. And I have been a supporter of that land ever since. And I'll tell you, I don't know of anybody, including you, that's ever been there that doesn't want to go back.
Oh, no. Now we're talking about eating because we're all hungry. No, but I love eating out there on Joppa Street with all those outdoor restaurants. I'm telling you, it is beyond wonderful. Or sitting where the train, what do you call that, street train?
Yeah, they now have, it's now they have a little train that runs all the way through from one end of the Jerusalem to the other end. You can go all over. And you don't have to walk if you don't want to, but who in the world wants to get on a train?
I know.
You want to walk and see all the shops.
It's fun to sit there on the side of the street, and here comes this train right down past you.
Zip right down there. It's changed so dramatically.
You've never seen anything like it. It's just wonderful. But it wasn't always that way.
No.
We have many Jewish friends that went through a very hard time if you lived in Germany or Poland or different places. And your mother was one of that, Ilan.
Yes, my mother was born in Czechoslovakia in a small town called Kolín, about an hour away from Prague. And as a young girl, a teenage, when the Germans came in, they took them away. And they took them to a camp called Theresienstadt. And Theresienstadt was the model camp. It was where the Germans wanted to show the world how nicely and how well they're treating the Jews. And it was an awful place. And the truth is, only when my mother went to Auschwitz did she realize how good Theresienstadt was. Because in Auschwitz, it was really awful. They put a number on each person's hand.
They branded them.
They branded a number. And I was talking to Earl before, and I said, it's a very interesting concept, but as long as my mother lived, I could never look at her arm and see the number. And I've tried for many years to try and remember that number, and there's no way I can remember it. And she passed away 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and on her tombstone is her number, and I still cannot see the numbers. I go there and I just can't see it because in my mind it's dehumanizing the person. That's what they try. They try to make them as cattle. They try to make them as something that's not worth anything. And from Auschwitz, my mother was sent towards the end of the war, to work in Germany, in Hamburg. And in her book, Fragments of Memory, she wrote a short story of celebrating, if you can call it, Christmas in Hamburg in the winter of 1944 as a laborer. And a few months later, she was on the death march walking from Hamburg to Bergen-Belsen.
They walked.
They walked them, and whoever could
Wasn't that in the cold of winter, too, that they walked with no shoes?
No shoes, no clothes, and whoever could not make it just dropped dead, and they just left them behind. So very few stayed till the end of the march.
Now, can you imagine that? No clothes. First of all, the embarrassment. I mean, all my fat I'd see hanging down. But just think about that. You are walking side by side with nakedness, with other people, with no clothes. It's freezing cold.
But the fortunate part about those who died like that, they didn't have to go through the horrific crimes, barbaric crimes that took place in those concentration camps, 42 of them, where people were treated worse than the enemy of Satan himself had to be there to conduct these things. There's no human being that could put another human being through what they did. Absolutely incredible what those dear, precious people that are called the apple of God's eye had to perish.
Well, didn't they do experiments on them without even putting them to sleep?
Well, what they did is many of the hospitals over there would have the women and bring the men, and they would operate on them, and with no anesthesiologist there, and they would see how much pain they could take before they died. They'd cut them without any type of anesthesia whatsoever. Dorothy, it is beyond
Barbaric.
words to explain what happened to these people, like his mother Hannah. Impossible. But that's why it's important to go there. That's why it's important not only to go and experience what it's like to see the joy and the happiness of the Israeli people, but to go and see how can that be possible after what happened and what we Christians remain silent on. When Hitler and his thugs were doing this, what were we doing?
Yep.
We were doing nothing to protect them, just like we're doing nothing to protect our friends now in Syria and others that are being killed, our Christian brothers.
Yeah, the
and
Christian
sisters.
brothers, beheaded children.
Right. It's so important,
It's
Dorothy,
horrifying.
that people speak up and not remain silent. Apathy and complacency has absolutely no place in the society we are living today, or we're going to see the same thing happen again. With
You
what
know,
happened to
when
Mom.
the trains would go by, they would put those people in trains like cattle cars.
Actually, they were cattle cars. And they were brought in, and they picked these people out of their homes, people just like you and me and your audience. They're sitting home now, probably and enjoying their favorite book in a favorite chair, sitting back, maybe smoking their pipe or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden, you get a knock on the door. And then you said, come, go with me. Well, how about my children? How about my husband? What's going on? Come. Put them in a cattle car, roll them across parts of Europe until they get to one of these concentration camps after being standing up for 4 or 5 days, not sitting down, standing up, having babies, having to have natural things that we have, as human beings, have to do. Can you imagine the stench that was on there. They couldn't see out of it. It had little teensy holes you could see. I've seen these cars. They're over there.
Right.
That's why it's so important that people understand you better stand up right now and
Yes,
speak
you
out
had
on
better.
behalf, or you're going to have, you Christian people, Sunday people, are going to go through the same thing.
That's right.
Not only as the Israelis did, the people.
Well,
God
and what
calls
was
out.
so sad in those days, Earl, as the trains would pass by the churches, they were singing in the, you know,
Joy to the
blessed
world.
assurance, joy to the world,
Yeah.
singing all the songs while
Absolutely.
their Christian brothers
Right.
were going by. Well, actually, they're Jewish people who are the apple of God's eye.
400 calories a day is all they were given. This is not something I'm making up. This is in history books. That's, again, why it's important that we go there and see it. If it's any way humanly possible, Americans ought to go there, not because they're our ally or because it's our spiritual. It's because we don't want to see it happen again.
That's it.
And the only way you're going to go and say it, I don't want to be this. I don't want to. When you see the conditions they lived under, they burned 8,000 people at one time a day in these concentration camps. Burned them alive, or gassed them. After they've been gassed, they burned them. And there were so many ashes. It was tons of ashes. And you know what they did with the ashes? They had to shovel them out and put them on the roads to fill potholes there at Birkenau. I'm telling you, I'm not making these stories up. And it's going to happen here in America, just like it happened there, if we don't speak up and stand up and support the state of Israel and God's people. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
That's exactly right. So it's time. It's time. We're going to talk more about it and how you can be a part of that. But right now we're going to B.J. Harrison. He's singing This Time.
This time, we will not be silent. This time, we'll not hold our peace. This time, the world will hear us cry out. This time, our voices shall not cease. We'll cry out for Jerusalem, for we love your stones. We'll stand up with you, Israel. You are not alone. This time, we will shake the heavens. This time, the earth will hear the sound. This time, the enemy will tremble. This time, the trumpet shall resound. The Lord will judge the nations who divide his land. You are his inheritance, saved by his mighty hand. This time, we will not be silent. This time, we'll not hold our peace. This time, the world will hear us cry out. This time, our voices shall not cease. We'll cry out for Jerusalem, for we love your stones. We'll stand up with you, Israel. You are not alone. This time, we will shake the heavens. This time, the earth will hear the sound. This time, the enemy will tremble. This time, the trumpet shall resound. The Lord will judge the nations who divide his land. We are his inheritance, saved by his mighty hand. This time, we will not be silent. This time, we'll not hold our peace. This time, the world will hear us cry out. This time, our voices shall not cease. We will not rest or be silent, no, our voices shall not cease.
This time, let us never have it happen again. I have a special book I opened with. This is a very special book. This is a book that you would get and keep on your coffee table. And what's really special about this book is it has 6 million names in here that just say Jew. Each one of these names represent a person that went through the Holocaust. 6 million. Think about that. And on the back of this book, it talks about the Holocaust, what all happened, and how many were killed, etc. This is wrapped into the Torah prayer shawl. And I love this book because here's what I'm doing with mine. I'm putting it on my coffee table. And every day we are commanded to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. This not only reminds me of what these dear precious people went through, every one of them, it will help me to pray that God will never let this happen again. It will help me to pray for the families of those who have come out of this. You know, we have no idea, but I'm telling you what, if we don't pray and if we don't stand, they're coming for you. This will be duplicated. It already is in some parts of the world. We see little children. I saw a picture of a little girl who they grabbed, and she's crying and crying because she just saw her brother's head cut off, put on a post. How horrifying. And then she knew she was next. I'm telling you something, we can make a difference. If we stand with Israel, it will help us. It will help stop some of the things that are happening. But we've got to stand with Israel. This will be on my table, and daily I will lay hands on it and I will pray. And I will take your mother's book, and I want you to read that one section, but I'm going to take your mother's book and have it here with it. And I'm going to take other Holocaust books that I have and put them on my table. So often we put magazines, beautiful magazines and things on our table. This is what counts right now, because we're seeing a Holocaust of a form with other Christian brothers and sisters, and we never want it to happen again. There are rockets aimed right now at Israel. I think he said 100,000. How many did he say?
Over 100,000.
Over 100,000
5 years
rockets
ago. There may be
aimed
more
at
now.
Israel right now. But that's not what they say. First them, then us. First them, then you. They call us the infidel. We are king's kids. We are kids that belong. I don't want to say this to make you afraid. I just felt like someone just said, oh, don't be afraid, because greater is he that lives in you than he that lives in the world. But if you'll stand, if you'll make a stand, God will help you in your hard time. I promise you. I'm going to have you talk more about this. Just know that this book is available. You can go to your website, which I will go ahead and put up on the screen, and you can get both of these books. But this book here is a precious treasure because it represents 6 million Jews who lived life just like you and I did, every day going to work, having a good time, family time, having Shabbat, and all of a sudden here comes a knock on the door. And they left everything. I think they were told they could bring a suitcase, and when they took the suitcases, they took them away from them.
That's right.
And they went through and pulled out all the precious treasures. So I'm asking you, I'm urging you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm urging you to say, what can I do to make a difference? And we're going to talk about some of that stuff right now. Tell me about your mama some more.
I just want to say one more thing about the book of 6 million. I think the significance of it is that we cannot comprehend the number 6 million. When we hear of a car accident and 2 people have died, we can somehow relate and put a face behind that accident. When it's 10,000 in a tsunami, it's already almost impossible beyond our thinking. And when it's 6 million, it is just inconceivable. And looking at this book, when you open up a page and you see that on one page there are 4,800 people, and you try to relate to them. And as Earl said so beautifully before. He said, if I take 1 page a day of this book, just 1 page, it will take me more than 2 years to go through the 6 million people. And I think it is very important. This book gives respect, gives honor to every one of those 6 million people who were not able to survive, who were not as fortunate, if you can say, as my mother.
As your mother.
And if you mentioned food in Israel before, so I'll just say you're both invited for Shabbat dinner at our home. It's the only day we have food, so you can always come, and we're all there. So next time. And I want to say something about food relating to my mother. My mother, she was a very beautiful lady, and I think she had a relatively good life. She never believed she would marry. She never believed she would have children. Every child she had was like a miracle. And then when she saw grandchildren, it was a miracle. And when she saw the wedding of 2 of her granddaughters, that was another fabulous miracle. When she spoke about food, it was something very different. And when we published her book, Fragments of Memory, short stories of a young girl during the Holocaust, before the Holocaust, during and after the Holocaust, the editor went through one of her stories that talks about bread and made changes. And my mother looked at me and said, she doesn't know what she's doing. And I said to her, Ima, she's an editor, she knows. She said, she doesn't understand what bread is. And I said, but she did it okay. And she went through it again, and my mother went again, and she said, she does not understand what the word bread means. And my mother always said that 1 slice of bread meant another day of living in those horrible days. And we don't understand what hunger is. We don't understand. We fast 1 day on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, and it's difficult. But they almost fasted every day. And in her book, she has one story about bread, and she writes, and I'll try to read a short passage. And she writes here, and she says that her dream in the war was of having all these breads and the different baked goods that you were talking about, the different smells. And then she writes, how can I explain this to my children while bread is being thrown in the garbage, fed to animals, while everybody tries to eat less bread to keep slim? I used to have a dream. When this ordeal is over, and if I survive it, I will have 10 loaves of bread with me at all times, to see them, to touch them, to nibble on them forever. That was my vision of paradise. The smell of fresh bread will always bring back these memories. And as I told you before, my wife keeps telling me that I should eat less bread because it will be better for my figure. And I think for over 30 years, she never understood how come I have to eat bread all the time. And I was telling Earl before also that this last Shabbat, I was in New York, and I just bought a challah. And I said, all Shabbat, I sliced 1 slice after the other, and I just enjoyed the bread. And when I was thinking of it, and when I'm reading this now, I say we're so privileged, but we don't always appreciate what we have. The plenty that we have in this world, we take for granted. We throw it. And we have to understand it's a gift of God. We are very fortunate people who can eat everything that we need every single day. We're not hungry. And I think we should all learn a lesson and try and cherish the bread and try and be better to other people who don't have bread and give them bread and help other people.
And when he was talking about challah, they use it for Shabbat, and it's a braided bread. Oh, and it's delicious.
When you put butter on it.
We know, don't we?
Dorothy, you'll now eat a whole hollow loaf.
We do.
You know, Dorothy, as I was listening to you a lot, I'm trying to visualize 6 million. But what is 1 million? 1 million is 10 100,000. Can you imagine that? 10 100,000 make just 1 million. And you're talking about 6 million people. Look at a stadium, a football stadium. You're looking at only 80,000 people. And you look, my gosh, and it looks like half of America is there. But we're talking about 6 million people. And when I put that book that he gave me on my coffee table, it is the only book, and I have a repository in my home of books that you wouldn't believe. That's the only book that is right there on my table. And I do flip through it, and I touch paper. because every one of those names says Jew in there. I can think that could be
person.
Earl Cox, that could be Dorothy, that could be Renee, that could be, it's a human being we're talking about. We're not talking about words, we're talking about people who had families, people who loved their families, that embraced each other. And all of a sudden, they've lost it all. And it happened just like that.
Like that. And it's hard to believe how just a group of crazy people, because that's what he became, Hitler became,
Yeah. And
could
that's
go
why,
and do
Dorothy,
such evil, evil, evil.
it's barbaric. Nobody believes this. I couldn't believe it.
But I'd like to say, I think using the word crazy is not the right term.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they were human beings. They were regular human beings.
I don't believe that.
No.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that. No human being could do
You're
this.
absolutely right. It's impossible to believe it.
Yeah.
But in order for us to make sure this never happens again, I think we have to remember they were people like me and you,
Yeah.
but they did not live what God meant us to do on this earth.
Yeah.
And they took certain things in their own hands and they became monsters. But they
Monsters.
were normal people. They were Germans. They were
Right.
educated people. They were
That's it.
Polish. They were Dutch. They were all over Europe. It wasn't only the Germans. And unfortunately, there were very few. There were good Christians who did help Jews and save their lives. But
Yeah,
they were very
Corrie
few. We
ten
can
Boom.
count them. We can count them. They're very few. And I think in order for us to remember and never let this happen again to any people, to any human being, whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're Christians, Jews, or Muslims, we have to remember that people did this and we cannot let this happen again.
Never.
That, I think, is the most important
Yeah.
message from my mother throughout her life, to teach people that we are all human beings, we have the right to live.
Yep.
But
and
there
we
is
do.
light at the end of the tunnel, Dorothy. You
Yes.
know what that light is going to be? You're going to help bring that light to a lot of people in your audience back in Augusta and here in Greenville and as you travel around. Because what we're going to do is, first time I've participated in anything like this, you are going to have a group of people that are going to Israel with you, I think on the 25th of October, if I'm not mistaken. And you're not only going to go and pray at the wall for America and its presidential election coming up, but for unity within the Israeli government and for the Israeli people. But you're going to move from there and go over to Poland, to Auschwitz, and to Birkenau to see and experience exactly what we are talking about. Because you can't appreciate it until you've been there. Like you talked about, when you put your foot down in Israel, Dorothy, you are a changed person. When you go to Poland and you walk and you see what happened in Auschwitz or Birkenau, and you see these inhuman acts that took place, your life will change, and will change for the better.
Forever.
And you know, we're so fortunate that we have somebody like one of your guests with us today, right?
Renee.
Yeah, yeah. She not only has a wonderful magazine on travel, but we are very fortunate to have her with us because she is a travel agent as well, and she understands it. And she's put together something from what you've told me that's going to be an absolute wonderful tour. And I can't think, and nobody's going to make a lot of money on this. This is not one of those things that's creating something that everybody's going to get richer. It's one of those things where people can come and hopefully afford an experience that they can never ever purchase. And if people can't come, maybe they'll send somebody to go with you, Dorothy. I'm looking forward to come over. I'll be over there for a month, you know.
I know. And we're going to join you at the wall.
You're going to join me at the wall. I'll start October the 1st, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 30 days.
Wow.
Praying at the wall and having people like you and Renee and maybe Ilan. We hope Jews come with us as well. Jewish and Christian peoples praying together for the peace of Israel.
Peace of Jerusalem. I have, you know what the wall looks like. I mean, everybody goes there. The one thing I just so much like is on Shabbat night, when fathers bring their sons, even little ones, down to the wall. Everybody's rejoicing and praying and holding up the Torah. And
but if you look at the news, you won't see that, will you, Dorothy?
no.
But you've seen it with your eyes many times, just like me. And that's why you have an insatiable appetite to share this with other people. And that's why I'm so anxious to get people there, because I want them to see the same thing.
Well, Renee, I'm going to pass this on to you because you probably have it by heart. But would you tell the people kind of what's going to happen? And she's the tour guide that's going to do all this.
Sure. Well, we have tour guides in Israel that are going to guide us, but you're going to be touring with Dorothy
And
excuse me.
Dante. Hopefully Dante.
Dante, who
And Dante.
And hopefully Greg West,
And
which all
with
these people
Earl.
know, and Earl.
And praying at the wall, but actually seeing the splendors of Israel. And I love to tell people, Israel isn't a trip or a holiday, it's an experience. And it's the most wonderful experience you can imagine. And to be able to pray with Earl and Dorothy at the wall is a gift.
It'll be awesome.
I hope everyone will join forces. And we have limited space. We have seats on Delta out of Atlanta to New York, and then from New York straight to Tel Aviv. We're going to spend 5 days in Jerusalem, touring the country and praying at the wall. And then we're going to take El Al from Tel Aviv to Warsaw. We're going to tour Warsaw, and then we're going to head on up to Krakow and spend 3 nights in Krakow. And from Krakow, we're going to go visit Auschwitz. And Auschwitz, honestly, you need to go and bear witness. Everyone should see it. It's the personification of evil. No one can imagine. You can read about it. You can hear the stories that we're telling you. But until you go experience it yourself, you can't imagine the horrific experiments and the horrific amount of horror that was just doused on these people. When you get there and you see trainloads and boxes and cartons of human hair and eyeglasses and children's shoes, you'll be beside yourself. But you need to go and see it so that you can say, and so that we all Jews say, never again.
Never.
Dorothy, at my age, I try to stretch every day as I can. I want to make sure they're long, but I can't wait for this time. So I'm trying to rush these days up to come on, because it's getting near the holidays. It'll be Hanukkah, and then it'll be Christmas. But even if a person can't go,
send somebody.
Maybe they'll send somebody. What a great present that would be to a Jewish person or to a Christian person in America to go with us. I'm telling you,
I've never been.
Like this.
I've never been. I've been to Israel, but never been to Auschwitz or any of these places. And we've seen it on television. We've seen it many times with the Hitler things.
Yeah.
But to be there, I know you, and we travel together with your wife. We have a good time. We travel together with the wife, which I love, Kathleen. But we have never gone there. And when I saw you went there, and you came back so burdened with this and where we are today.
18 years I'd been going to Israel reporting news, but when I went to Auschwitz to participate in the March of the Living, and had a chance to speak, and as I went through, I said, I thought I knew it all. I thought I knew why I supported Israel. Well, I do, but I also know much more now why I support the state of Israel, because I saw what these people, that the very God that we worship, Hashem, he says they're the apple of my eye. You can't get any closer. Touch your eye, Dorothy, and you pull your hand away real quick. These are the people that I'm going to be supporting. These are the people I'm going to be with. And when I travel with Renee, Renee's Jewish. And when I sit next to this guy right here in London, he's Jewish. Where do you see this happen? When we had early on the program, we had our good friend Jonathan, Channel 7. But in any event, these are people now that are embracing us with all we've done to them. And they're saying, come, we want to be a part of what you're doing. So Dorothy, I know you're as excited as I am.
I am very excited. And I'm going to get to see you over there.
Absolutely.
And we're also going to have Holocaust survivors come, aren't we? So it's going to be wonderful.
Well, we're going to sponsor the Holocaust survivors from Stereo, and we're going to bring them while you're there. I'm going to bring them over to Jerusalem, and they're going to stay at the Jerusalem Gold Hotel, where I get a discount for paying for if I bring them there.
I like staying there.
Yeah, well, anyway, we're going to bring them there, and many of them have never, ever been to Jerusalem. And of course, most of them would be the Russians that have come in. But I remember the last trip, they can't speak English. And many of them can't even speak, a lot of the Hebrew that you're speaking, but the Yiddish and various other things they speak. But to be with those people and see the tears flow down their eyes, they were there. They saw it. They were part of it. And to see that people care enough to come and say, we want you to come to Jerusalem and be a part of it. Oh, I'm telling you, I get so excited about it. I don't know. I am the most blessed man in the whole wide world to be able to work with the Jewish people and report news from Israel.
And I thank God for you, because of you, I'm also able to do that.
Well, I get excited because of people like you. See, you're the fuel that keeps me going, and so is she and him, all of them. And I really, at my age, I should be in a hammock drinking a sarsaparilla, not out there walking back and forth.
And I think to represent the Israeli side and the Jewish side, I think we're very fortunate to have people like you working for us and supporting us.
Absolutely.
I think that is
love you.
of great importance, and really, we do appreciate every day, every minute of what we do, because you are our friends, not others.
We are.
And because
thank
of
you.
you, we could say never again.
Never
because you
again.
stand by us. We have you.
Yep. And we're going to stand by you, and we're going to ask you to stand with them. Please pray for the peace of Jerusalem every single day. And one of the ways you can bless Israel, buy their products, but a really great way is come and be on their land. The more people that come, the greater of a showing it is that we're standing with you. That speaks volumes. Well, we're going to go to B.J. Harris. He's going to sing Fear Not.
When you pass through the waters that flow above your head, when you come to the rivers that fill your heart with dread, when you walk through the fire, you will not be touched by flame, and the waters will not overflow you if you call upon my name. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, there'll be no shame. Fear not, I have redeemed you, and I've called you by your name. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, there'll be no shame. Fear not, I have redeemed you, and I've called you by your name. When your enemies surround you like locusts on the land, and they lay their traps around you, so you'll fall into their hand. Well, they'll fall into their own nets who planned that wicked deed. For great, great is my mercy to those who trust in me. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, there'll be no shame. Fear not, I have redeemed you, and I've called you by your name. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, there'll be no shame. Fear not, I have redeemed you, and I've called you by your name. For I am the Lord your Savior, the Holy One, the Rock, the strong right arm of Abraham. I'm your own almighty God. So fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, there'll be no shame. Fear not, I have redeemed you, and I've called you by your name. Oh yes, I've called you by your name. You know you're mine, and I know your name.
Thank you so much, BJ. Don't forget, our phone lines are open for prayer. If you need prayer, please go to the phone and call. I just saw one here that says, I want a closer walk with God. You know what the Bible says? That if you draw nigh to him, he'll draw nigh to you. How can you do that? Get into this book. Get into this book. You ought to have a daily time every day where you sit and make a place. I have a prayer room now, a war room. And
I do
you
too.
have a war room?
I just now I saw the movie.
Yeah, I did
and I went home
too.
and saw it. My wife said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want a war room."
I want a war room.
She said, "You're not going to take this whole closet, are you?" I said, "Yeah."
Oh, you have a closet?
I did
Well,
do.
I have where my mother used to live with us, and I have where she would sit and pray every day. So that
You know what
became
we're talking about.
that
Did you
my
see the
war
show?
room.
Okay, all right.
But if you'll get in this book every day, I have something written in I have a lot of Bibles, but let's see if I wrote in this one. But most of my Bibles will say, this book will keep me from sin, but sin will keep me from this book. And if you want a relationship with God, a closer relationship, get in the book. You say, well, I don't understand. Well, then go in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's easy to understand. It's the life of Jesus. And just pray and say, Holy Spirit, show me, teach me out of your word. I do that. And it's wonderful. I may have read this 50 times, and all of a sudden, I never saw that. He will deal with you through this book. And that is one of the ways you can get a closer walk with him. Also, don't forget to go to the website. You can get this book and fragments of
Memory.
And that will be your mother's book. You're a publisher, and you publish many books, don't you?
Yes, we do. We publish many books that have that deal with Israel, with Jewish history, with the Holocaust, with the relationships of Jews and Christians. And I wanted to mention there's one verse in Isaiah which is, I think, very pertinent to what we're talking about today. In Isaiah 6, it says in Hebrew, Et mi eshlach va'omar hineni shlacheni. Translation of it is, who shall I send? And I said, it is me.
Yeah.
Meaning every one of us, every human being has a mission on this earth. And if every one of us sees ourselves as if we were picked personally by God, if we were chosen by God to go and do those good deeds, to do good in this world, our world will look much better, whether we're Jews, Christians, or Muslims. So we have to remember we are messengers, and we can and should do these good things. And when we publish our books, we try to educate on what is happening in Israel. And as Jonathan said before, we try to tell the truth of what it is. And with the variety of books that we have, we try to teach culture, military, history of what actually happens in the Holy Land, in the land of Israel, in Jerusalem, the eternal city.
You have these on your website.
All of them on our website and in stores around the country.
And that way people could go and check it out. You can also check him out on Amazon, but you can go to his website and see what all's there, and you'll be glad that you did.
And you know, Dorothy, I know you were sitting there thinking the same thing I was thinking as he was talking about. You know, in the Bible, when God was talking to Isaiah, he went to him, he says, Isaiah, whom shall we send and who will go? Right? Now, what did Isaiah say? You know what he said.
Yep.
Here am I, Lord,
send me.
Now, where are we going to send them? We're going to send them with
To
Renee
Israel.
all the way to Israel and to
To Poland.
And to Poland.
And you're welcome to call us at 770-451-9399 or to email me, RENEE, at sritravel.com, or to contact Dorothy.
Or even Dante here. I haven't talked to his producer yet, but you can talk to their producer here, and they will be able to help you to get to you.
And we have a limited number of seats, so please hurry.
Absolutely. And
You
we
also
want people, prayer warriors, don't we? We want people who believe
prayer
in prayer.
warriors, yes.
We want
'cause-
people that want to come and pray and share the experience of being there with us in solidarity.
Right.
And that's
right,
what this is
absolutely.
the type of trip it is. It's
Yeah.
a different kind of trip.
Yeah,
Travel Girls, one of your magazines?
It is. It's sold all over the country. And the next cover is Scarlett Johansson, so we're very excited. It hits newsstand in about a week.
Now,
And
I
that's
this is Jacqueline Smith.
and she's an absolute doll. If you remember, she was one of the
She's
original
pretty.
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, she's
lovely,
beautiful.
lovely, lovely lady.
Huh?
Oh, I thought. Oh,
No, that's
sorry.
not me. I wish.
Travel, and it's on sale all over the country.
Dream.
And for that, you can log on to travelgirlinc.com and get a complimentary digital subscription.
Oh, okay. That'd be great. Well, I want to just talk to you just a few more minutes. So when people come to Israel, can they ever go visit your place? Is it that kind of a place or not?
We would welcome anybody who comes to Israel to visit us. We're right behind the central bus station in Jerusalem, opposite the hotel you'll be staying at.
Is it? Well, that's where I
You
stay.
walk
Yes.
by it all the time.
We've been
Dorothy.
by it
And we
100
welcome you.
times.
There's always water and coffee and a toilet. So you can always
And you
come
can
in.
check out all their books.
How great is that?
Can check out all the books. We'll be glad to show you. We actually are in a very strategic place in Jerusalem, and we have many, many tourists who do come in and walk in and see the books. And when your group comes in, if you'll have the time, we'll host you all and show you that beautiful place
You
in
bet.
Jerusalem.
But you're going to come and pray with us.
I will come to the Kotel, to the Western Wall with you as well.
So we'll
Would
be
you
the
like to go to
guests.
Auschwitz with us?
We talked about it.
We
He's
talked
thinking
about it, and that's
It'd be tough. It'd be
it's a
tough
very
for you.
difficult
It'd be
issue
tough
for me that I have to consider.
Yeah,
But I
because-
think that all my 4 kids were in Auschwitz. They went to visit, and I think it's an experience, as you said, it's a life changer. I think it's extremely important. I've been to many other camps with my mother and alone. Auschwitz is a very difficult obstacle for me personally, but I do think from what I've heard from my 4 children who have gone there, it is definitely a life-changing experience. It teaches you, on one hand, how cruel human beings can be. On the other hand, if we look and we say it's 6 million people, but think of how many descendants it is. Meaning my mother survived and she has about 20 descendants. Think of these 6 million people. If they would have had descendants, how many people were erased from this earth? And going back to what Jonathan and you talked before about all the innovations of Israel, think of how much the world lost in innovations from these millions of people who could have made the world that much better.
That's right. You know, your children were there. That was probably on a birthright tour, right?
No, the Israeli high schools have a program where they send kids on their 12th grade, on the last grade of high school, and they go to Poland, they go to Auschwitz, they have preparation before, they go through, and then they come back.
And then they go to, right, as soon as they graduate, to the IDF.
They go to the IDF. Every one of my 4 children, I have 3 daughters who were officers in the IDF, my son who was a paratrooper, and I actually jumped off a plane with him when he did his paratrooper's course.
You did?
Because you're allowed to, as a former paratrooper, you're allowed to jump with your son, with any of your kids when they jump. And I'm looking forward to jumping with my grandson.
Wow.
He's 8 months old.
Sounds like George Bush Sr.
I'm trying to imitate George Bush, absolutely.
It does, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, they have a thing that's called, here's what one of the things I love in Israel. They have a thing called birthright, and that goes to children who are Jewish anywhere in the world. And when we were at Shabbat with our ambassador, I told him my heart was to have a birthright with Christian kids and Jewish kids together. And now they're doing that.
Right. You sparked a spark that set a major fire. You know that? And not only did they get the resources to do it, they now have it actively working where Christian young people are going to Israel to experience that they do with the birthright.
The
and
birthright.
Dorothy, it was I don't even like the word use germ, but I think of a germ, how it spreads and causes an epidemic. It is done just like that little germ that you planted with Ron Derma. Just flourished. And
Well,
today we've got them going there.
When I talk to children from all over the world that were on Birthright, I said, what are you all doing here? And they told us the Birthright, how that they go and they help plant, they help the IDF and all the things they go through on Birthright. I thought, what a better way to unite people together. If I play with you, I will always love you. My children have always had little black friends. My little granddaughter came to me when she was a little girl. She says, Mommy, I want little braids all over my head. And she says, well, who has that? And she was a little black girl. And she said, well, they have different kind of hair. Yours would fall out. I can't do you. Well, then I want to be black. You see, if we teach our children to come together, then there won't be this replacement theology. There won't be those things.
Lesson that we in the evangelical and the Christian community can learn, we can look at these 2 people right here. Look what the Christian community has done to the Jewish community. Look, we have persecuted them all through the ages. And look at them, they sit here and they're part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
They've said, come, we welcome you. You know, if I were a Jew, I've often thought, and you and I have talked about this, if I were a Jew, which I'm not, I would not like Christians. I would not be like you are. I don't understand. We persecuted you, and then you reach out and grab our hands and say, that's okay. We want to be your friend. Oh, it brings tears to my eyes to think about this.
Because we were never taught to hate.
Yeah.
We were taught to love. We were taught to love people.
Love line.
And as you mentioned before about the Israeli army, we were not taught to kill. We
Yeah.
were taught to defend our lives.
Yeah.
And therefore, when someone arises to kill you, as it says in the Bible, you shall kill him first. But we don't go out there to kill just in order to kill,
No.
like unfortunately many terrorists around the world who are Muslims do today. We were taught to love thy neighbor, to love people.
But Earl, you're among the righteous, you and Dorothy, the righteous
No,
Christians.
no,
Without
I'm just
so
a
many of
blessed
you
person.
protected us during the Holocaust, and many people remain today because of righteous Christians.
Let
So
me just say this too,
we
because
applaud you.
we're going off the air here, but Earl, you just wrote a wonderful piece. He writes every week for the Jerusalem Post, but wrote a wonderful piece. I just read it on the way here. Go to the Jerusalem Post and look what he said about how the Christians treated the Jewish people. It's an awesome piece, and I just love what you do. I love all of you guys, what all you have done. Thank you so much. It's just such a blessing. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And I want you to go to Israel with us. Give us a call. Just say, I want to go. I need to be there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.